Everybody, welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you in Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. TK joining us over in what are we today? The Tremonti's Meat and Seafood Studios. And we're presented each and every week by LeBear's Casino, where you can go buy LeBear's in Baton Rouge 24 hours, 7 days a week. Bet on all the great games at their sports book, at their kiosks as well. And you can bet on all the Major League Baseball games. Little Major League Baseball news, Ozuna, rather, over in Atlanta, arrested on DUI charges. So that may affect some lines over there on meatandpotatoesusa.com.
Hey, speaking of gaming, the Penn National Gaming Company, which owns LeBear's, will in spring of 23 will fully own Barstool Sportsbook.
Spring of 23. Gotcha.
Yes. You know how those things don't happen overnight. There's contracts and whatever. So, but then the Barstool Sportsbook will be 100% under Penn National Gaming. And as you know, Penn National Gaming owns LeBear's and many, many other properties across the country.
Right. Well, that'll be interesting. And that's about, by the way, the timeline for over at LeBear's Baton Rouge. They're redoing their whole stadium sports bar and grill. It's been closed down. They're revamping it. It's going to be a Barstool Sports book restaurant. I mean, it's going to be amazing. That'll, kind of timeline on that sometime probably in November. We'll keep you posted whenever we hear more. It's still a long ways away, but it's going to be spectacular when the time comes. It's going to be the place to go in Baton Rouge to watch games and bet on games. And, imagine playoffs and BCS, the playoff championships and NFL playoff games and national championship games. It's going to be absolutely packed in there and going to be a fun place to be.
Ronnie, I've been in Vegas in a sports book one time for a Monday night football game. Packers were playing somebody. This is years ago. And to be in, and that's when I knew nothing about what was going on. But to be in a sports book, and this was just a Monday night game, not a playoff game or anything like that. It was amazing to just watch. Like, you can bet on whether the next play is pass or run. I mean, it was just amazing to see the hustle and bustle over a Monday night game. And, of course, that's times a million when you start talking Super Bowl or college football national championship or the Final Four. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is definitely spectacular. People that have gone to Vegas for the Super Bowl parties, always talk about it. And Chance Sandportnoy taking over the world. It's going to be interesting to see what his involvement's going to be, what the contract is as far as Penn owning Barstool. Does that change anything, with how they run Barstool? Does it change what the messaging they put out? Because Barstool pushes that line, right? Of they're not very politically correct sometimes. And will that change when a publicly traded company fully owns you? It'd be interesting to see. I hope not. All right, today on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's, we're going to talk about the Saints are in action tonight. Second preseason game up in Green Bay. Get another look at the Saints. Bart Scott was on ESPN talking really good about the Saints, saying he thinks they definitely have a chance to win a Super Bowl this year, which that's the first time we really heard that said on a national scale. He went through why he thought they had all the ingredients to be a Super Bowl champion team. The good news is they're talking about Tom Brady not being in camp over in Tampa. This is all different, right? Tom Brady has always had positivity around him in camp and everything. He retired, he unretired. Now he left camp. When's he coming back? We don't know. So that's good if you're a Saints fan. You want that confusion. You want that, controversy, if you will, over in Tampa. Don't know how much it's going to make a difference. I think Tom Brady could probably get 5 practices in and be good to go for the season. But that said, that's a little different over there. We're going to talk a little bit with Tommy about the Big Ten signing a mega 7-year, $7.5 billion with a B TV contract. If they get 7 and 7.5, imagine what ABC and ESPN is going to pay for the SEC. We'll get into that. Also, some more fallout on Deshaun Watson, some LSU news as Brian Kelly sort of hints to who could possibly be the starting quarterback. But first, let me bring in TK to talk about this TV contract. I think most people thought that the shoe would drop on the SEC, that they would be the first one to get the contract, but that was not the case. Fox and the Big Ten, which owns a large share of the Big Ten network. You've got the Peacock channel involved. It's a three-way deal. These guys are putting up just over $1 billion a year. You know, Purdue's president in the 1890s started the Big Ten Conference. He was the first one to call up the other schools, Midwest schools, and say, hey, let's do something together. I can't imagine in 130 years ago they ever dreamed that they'd have a TV. One, they didn't know what TV was in 1890, but to think that little, you know, group getting together in 1890 would it be worth over $1 billion a year just in TV? It's incredible where this thing is going now.
Well, when you group together NBC and Peacock, which NBC owns Peacock, you put in CBS, you put in Fox, you put in other things. That's how they can get that much money. Ronnie, it's going to kind of be like a Big Ten football triple header. You know, picture the Sunday NFL triple header when it's three different networks. You got the noon game, the 3 o'clock game, and the 6:30 game, whatever it is. That's what you're going to get out of the Big Ten, a morning, a midday, and a noon on a different platform with national TV, all the other stuff that they'll mix in there. Billion, you said it, B with $1 billion a year minimum. That these schools are going to make money like they have never made before. It's going to be, you know, through the roof money, which they'll improve, you know, resources and facilities and stadiums and recruiting. And it's just a mega deal, to say the very least. So as we sit here in SEC country, it's almost good that the Big Ten went first, because now they're going to get a bigger deal. And there's only two platforms left: ESPN, which owns the SEC network, and ABC, which owns ESPN. So, you know, it's going to be an ABC ESPN thing. And I just can't see, you know, where the ESPN, where it just means more, I can't see them being felt that they're going to get left out, or they're not going to get as good of a deal. Now, one little kink, and it's probably only a small bump in the road: the University of California Regents, kind of like the state of Louisiana has their board that governs all colleges in Louisiana. They went with the Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend, for UCLA. They want to know how, why, when, why all this is going to happen. They're trying to block, or will attempt to block, UCLA going to the Big Ten. So the lawyers, guns, and money. I mean, it's going to be nothing but lawyers and lawsuits and litigation. I just can't wait till referee blows the whistle and somebody kicks the football off and we have some college football, because that's coming. This coming weekend's the last weekend until January, when there's no college football of some form, shape, or whatever on a weekend for the fans. So, man, it's a mega deal, and it goes back to the one where the almighty dollar bill and money, money, money.
You know, UCLA, the whole UCLA delaying its joining the Big Ten, and again, it's not by their president or their athletic director, it's by the Board of Regents, which is a political play. But the reality is that I get it, right? Like, hey, before we go to the Big Ten, we need to explore every option to possibly stay on the Pac-12 or whatever. But we already know why they're going to the Big Ten, because they're upside down over $100 million in debt. They're going to make at least twice as much, if not even more than that now, maybe probably 3 or 4 times as much money going to the Big Ten annually than they would if they stayed where they're at. So, you know, they can look at this thing with a fine-tooth comb all they want. Now, the state of California, though, has never been a big fan of balancing the books. You know, they have lived upside down, trillions of dollars in debt as a state. So maybe their Board of Regents just are going to do the same thing. But if you're trying to balance a budget and you're trying to grow facilities and you try to do the right thing for your school, regardless of the conference, the right thing is clearly for them to join the Big Ten. Now, that's not going to sit well with alumni and boosters and fans, but it is what it is. And I think we all know that this thing is headed towards 2 super conferences anyway, between the Big Ten and the SEC, and then everybody else is just the have-nots.
I agree completely. I mean, you know, then when you throw in the bottom end of these conferences, like a Rutgers in the Big Ten, or Vanderbilt, that might not be a great example. Vanderbilt, you know, football-wise, that's what it all starts with. You know, I mean, they're going to get all this money, but are they ever going to be able to compete? You know, and stories about Rutgers athletic department spending $400,000 on DoorDash, you know, trying to get food in, using credit cards for all of that because they don't have the money for that at Rutgers, you know, which is in New Jersey. That's a huge TV market. So I just don't know if we're going to see this big rise, Ronnie, and then maybe some of them fall out of the way and we end up with 2 14 or 16 team conferences that will, rule the roost, so to speak, in college football. It's a whole nother story when you throw in all the other sports, men's basketball, the women's basketball, track and field. It's a whole nother story when you throw in everything else. It's just massive, and it's not going to go away. It's going to be a story every day for every sports show, like Sports Shorts Daily. Everybody to write about, talk about, whatever. It's here to stay. And, it's just going to be what people are going to have to adjust to. Be younger, the older generation, nobody likes change, including me. I'm in that boat. Don't change that. I'm used to this. Winn-Dixie one day changed everything in their store about where they had on what aisle. And my mind was blown for 2 weeks because they didn't have it where it was supposed to be, So, but now that's what's happening in college sports, in particular college football. And you want to find out why? It's all about money.
$80 to $100 million per school is the projected payouts in the Big Ten. By the way, ESPN did turn down an opportunity to be a part of the deal. The Big Ten was talking to ESPN. ESPN has been with the Big Ten in some way, shape, or form since 1982. ESPN rejected the Big Ten's final offer of a 7-year, $380 million agreement. That was going to give them less big time games. Oh, by the way, how does this affect Notre Dame, right? Everybody wants to talk Notre Dame when you talk Big Ten because NBC is a part of this deal. That's with Fox and NBC and CBS and everything else. NBC still going to carry some Notre Dame games. They like their package. They like, hey, we've got Notre Dame on prime time Saturday night when they've got big games. We've got, Big Ten games in prime time. We've got Sunday night football in the NFL. So that's they're going to package that up, and they like their matchup. So quite the move by the Big Ten. It's $80 to $100 million now for the next 7 years. Their schools are guaranteed, and everybody else is fighting. And we'll see what happens with ABC and ESPN when that new deal comes out.
This post by Byron, this will be like travel ball before long. There'll be multiple national champions, one from 2 major conferences and all the other, kind of like literally, you triple SA baseball, your 10-year-old team can go win the gold bracket of the bronze, division of the 10-year-old tournament in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and call themselves national champions or whatever. But, let's see. Chance says it's TNT or TBS a player. That's going to be in with the SEC package. They're not in the Big Ten package. That was the other thing that I quickly was like, okay, who's in this? Who's not? Because whoever's not is going to roll to the SEC. What Ronnie? I want to know, what did Jumbo Sports Network try to get in?
We were in negotiations. Once it hit the $3,000 mark, we were out. 7 years, $3,000 a year, we were out at that point. But I'll tell you a funny Jumbo Sports Network story, Tommy. I started that company in the fall of 1997. I literally did 5 LSU baseball games in the spring of 1998, 3 regular season Sundays and 2 NCAA regional games at the Bucs that year. And then LSU was like, oh, okay, somebody wants these 5 Sunday SEC home games, and nobody else was trying to do TV games back then or anything. It was too expensive. You got to deal with rainouts and everything else. And there was no regional sports channels and all that. So, of course, I do a few, and they're like, okay, now we're going to put it out to bid. Okay, great. Not only is it expensive enough, but now LSU wants to get paid for me to be the only one to really bid, probably. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I was the only one that bid. Now, the second time around, 3 years later or so, I wasn't the only one who bid, but it was like, I think I paid $500, Tommy. I think I paid $500 a game, or maybe like the first year was $500 a game. The second year was like, $600 a game. I think they walked me up, something like that. Then the NCAA, again, same kind of thing. Nobody was televising NCAA regional games. They would do the College World Series. ESPN did the College World Series, but in the 90s, none of your regionals were on TV until the Jumbo Sports Network did a couple. And then there was a couple other channels came around, like CSSE, which was around for about 3 or 4 years and went out of business. And see, there was a couple other regional channels that were in the 90s, and it would pop up and maybe do a game or two in other parts of the country. Well, they had a bid on their, you had to bid, when the teams came out on Monday at noon, you had till Tuesday at noon to get your bid in. And there was a minimum charge. There was a $250 a game, $500 a game, something like that. So I get the bid. Well, the NCAA hires old coaches. So like when LSU would have a regional at the Bucs in the 90s, they might have the head baseball coach at Louisiana Tech or ULM or something like that come down and becomes the tournament director, for that weekend, making sure teams get in and out, whatever tournament directors do. But here's the thing. They didn't know anything about TV for the first 2 or 3 years, at least. They didn't know anything about TV. They hardly even knew we were there. They looked at us almost like being in the way, like, why are you here, doing these games on TV? That when the game started at 6:00, they wanted the games to start at 6:00, not 6:05, not 6:04, not 6:06. When you watch a game now, you see the announcers in the booth and they set up the game and they feature the teams and the coaches and who's playing and maybe do the starting lineups. And then they do the first pitch. And so it's always 03, 04, 05, 06, something like that. No, they weren't going to get – I asked for that, and the tournament director's like, no, we're starting at 6:00. And I'm like, that's impossible. Welcome to the Bucs, ball outside. What I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? It's ridiculous. So what I did was, Tommy, I had some of the players for the LSU baseball team. I went to them before the game, and I said, hey, listen, you're down here in the bullpen, throwing the baseball, warming up, getting the pitcher ready, whatever you're doing. Do me a favor. When it gets to about 5:58, 5:59, look up there on the clock. Start throwing some of the baseballs into the outfield. Like let a ball go over your head, or like somehow whatever. And I said, do me a favor. We got to like at least start at like 6:03. And sure enough, that's what we did, Tommy. Like the first couple of games ever on TV in the regionals, we had to like throw balls onto the field, and umpires never caught on to what was going on. And luckily, some of those guys just kind of stalled just enough to where it pushed back the start of the game, and we were able to put it on.
Yeah, that's brilliant and clever by you to come up with that little plan. And what makes it better is that it worked. Okay, that's what makes it best. One thing to have a plan, and then they don't work. But no, and I remember working for the Jumbo Sports Network, dugout guy for the regional at Tulane when they had Alabama and Southern and Tulane, and ULL might have been there too that year.
I remember, yeah. That was the year that they went to the College World Series, right, Tommy? I think that was 04. No, 05.
Yeah,
05, maybe?
That's the famous John Kruk autograph event.
Oh, a kid thought you were John Kruk from ESPN.
Yeah, he said, hey, man, come over here. I want your autograph. And he told his little buddies, I'm about to get John Kruk's autograph. So I signed his book, Best Always, John Kruk, and gave it back to him.
Did you spell it correctly? I don't know.
Yes.
By the way, don't forget, you can read a lot of good stuff in here. Everything matters in baseball. Go to acadianahouse.com. Acadian House. Acadianhouse.com. Acadianhouse.com. Get this book. It's fantastic. All right. So we're moving on from the TV. We know everybody's getting rich. Big Ten's first to the party. The UCLA Board of Regents slowing down, getting paid. Not a shocker there. Let's see. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Chance, for tuning in. Byron, thanks for like and share the video. Saints tonight, what's the thing you're looking forward to seeing the most out of this preseason game with the Saints over in Green Bay?
It's preseason football. Okay. There are a lot. The Saints want to win. The Packers want to win. But there are a lot of other objectives both of these coaching staffs want to accomplish. My dear friend, the late Dave, the meat man Scandaliato, who is the reason for meatandpotatoesusa.com, used to always say you got to be crazy to bet on preseason football, or you bet $10, you bet 20, because you just don't know. And there's other things that teams are trying to make happen. So I see that with the Saints tonight. I'm sure we're still waiting to see what's up with the foot of Jameis Winston. They haven't announced whether he'll get a series tonight or get some snaps. Andy Dalton, maybe you got to play him a little bit longer. The more Dalton plays, the more they think Winston's injured. You can look at it that way. Again, as we mentioned yesterday, the Kamara suspension not going to come down the pipe for a year, so you don't have to worry about that. But the Saints wide receiving core is eager to show what they can do with Michael Thomas back and Jarvis Landry and Traquan Smith. I mean, they got some guys, okay. And then defensively, that's where the Saints are going to hang their hat, and Dennis Allen's going to call the defense. After tonight, Allen will be calling the defense. He's letting his other guys get the experience last week and this week. Packers are a 3-point favorite. The over and under is 38.5. Again, if you want to put a hamburger on that just to have fun and kicks and giggles, go ahead and do it. But I wouldn't bet much on a preseason game when these coaches of both teams have many objectives, trying to find out, well, okay, we got to find out that 7th offensive lineman, or we got to find out that 5th linebacker, or special teams. You want to see who can catch a punt, so there's other things going on. So I'll probably, last week with being laid up with my knee, I watched most of the Saints game, and I'll glance at some of it tonight and just check it out. It's good to see the NFL. Plus, it's my 2 favorite uniforms in the NFL, the Saints and the Packers. So I'll be able to check that angle out too. And but I wouldn't read a whole lot into this. Saints do have a home preseason game next week. That'll be the final. Again, 3 preseason games because you have the 17-game schedule.
The Saints, the biggest thing I want them to do is just stay healthy. I don't want any sort of excuses for any of their starters to get hurt. Many times over the years have we seen teams in the preseason not win and go on and win Super Bowls or whatever. So going undefeated or whatever your record is, I just want them to stay healthy. And, I'm curious what Jameis Winston, obviously Jameis Winston in my mind, besides left tackle, is probably the most, left tackle and Jameis Winston are the 2 most important players on this team. And I'm curious as to the chemistry with Jameis Winston as receivers, the accuracy. Now that Sean Payton is not there, we saw Sean Payton have a tremendous impact on Jameis Winston from a turnover standpoint, to get him to play with the mindset of don't take care of the football first and foremost. I'm sure they're still talking about that, but now that your head coach and your main guy in your ear offensively for the last couple of years is not there, how does that affect Jameis Winston? Does he look around? Is it like a substitute teacher type of thing? And it's like, okay, well, I can go back to being a little loosey-goosey and eating the W's and doing whatever I want to do, or whatever that thing. Yeah, God. But that's what I'm curious about is will Jameis Winston carry on what he learned from Sean Payton and Drew Brees over the last 2 years into his being the guy now for the Saints for the next couple of seasons without them there? Can he, can the student learn from the teacher and implement it without having them over their ear, every step of the way? If he does that, if he plays like that, then the Saints are going to, be a playoff team.
Well, it's like Chance just said. I put it up there a minute ago. The Saints are loaded. They are loaded on paper. Winston's the wild card. Again, how much Dalton plays tonight will tell you how severe or not severe Winston's injury is. So keep an eye on that. But and I said this, I think on Sports Shorts Radio last Saturday or on Sports Shorts Daily yesterday. Andy Dalton went to 9 Pro Bowls. You don't just stumble into 9 Pro Bowls, okay? You had 1, you had a hot year, 2, and nobody else played well. But 9 times he went to a Pro Bowl and not a good football team. So I think there's some upside there. Now, can he quarterback the Saints for the duration of the schedule and lead them to the promised land and to the Super Bowl? I don't know the answer to that. But, Winston's health is the issue. But the more snaps Dalton gets now, be it tonight, be it next week, if you have to turn to him at some point in the season, you're better off for it. So I think Chance is right. They are loaded on paper. Nobody wins the game on paper, though. We'll have to wait and see.
Also, let's talk a little bit about this, the reaction. What have you been surprised the most about the reaction on Deshaun Watson? 11 games, $5 million, 11 game checks. Now that it's been 24 hours and everybody's had a chance to write about it, talk about it on the shows, What's been your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is this: prior to the settlement, he came out and said, he felt sorry he carefully worded this. 10 lawyers wrote this. Carefully was sorry about some of the impact that some of his decisions might have made. He basically apologized, okay, but was very careful with his words. And then as soon as the settlement's reached, done deal, stamped, then he comes out and said, I've stood by my innocence. Well, if you were innocent, you shouldn't have settled. Why'd you make that other statement? I mean, I think he looks like a buffoon here. And we'll see what the future brings for Deshaun Watson, but it's going to be one of your favorite words, oogie. It's going to be an oogie situation when he gets ready to come back on the field. And then there's also, I read a report where, they're very strict about this counseling he has to undergo, and that it's possible if he doesn't meet certain criteria by this NFL mandated counseling and reports that they got to do, that the suspension could be increased to a longer time. So they're going over this with a fine-tooth comb. And but my biggest takeaway is he did the complete flip-flop, and he's not sorry for what he did. And he's not innocent, or he wouldn't have settled with 23 out of 24 people. Something went wrong, okay? Something was done incorrectly, and he just can't be man enough to own up to that.
Tonight, Tommy, I've already set my DVR. You may want to do so as well. The Savannah Bananas are going to be on ESPN2 tonight. The Savannah Bananas, for those that don't follow them on social media, and I urge you to do so because it's a great follow. They are two parts. They are they are a college summer wood bat baseball team, just like the Baton Rouge Rouge. They play in the Coastal League in June and July. But they are Harlem Globetrotters in April and May, and also in August. Well, they're playing 6 games in August as the Harlem Globetrotters. Instead of them playing the Generals, they play the Party Animals. And so literally the Savannah Bananas have kind of 2 teams, right? They've got the guys that are the Generals. They're called the Party Animals. They wear different colored uniforms, and that's the rival, and they never win. And they take on the Bananas. And it's an entertainment. It's a show. They reinvent the rules. Well, they're going to have that game. They play tonight over in Savannah in front of a sold-out crowd. Every game's been sold out for 2 years. They're playing at 6 o'clock on ESPN2. Then after that, they've got a docu-series that's going to, I think it's a 5-part maybe or something. They've been following the Savannah Bananas around for the last year or two. They're going to tell the story of them, see behind the scenes. First episode 1's coming on immediately tonight after the game. So, at 8 o'clock or roughly, they're going to have it on. So set your DVR. It's called Banana Land is the name of the documentary, Banana Land. And then the game, of course, so if you haven't ever seen it, watch it. I'm actually going, Tommy, on September 2nd. I'm going to Savannah to go watch them play. Flying over there to go watch one game that Friday night, September 2nd, and just kind of see how they do it and take some notes and see, what things we could pick off and bring back to Baton Rouge. But really looking forward to tonight. So set your DVRs and watch that. ESPN2.
Yeah, it's theatrical baseball, as Chance commented. It's different. I've read some stuff about the Savannah Bananas. I've seen some video clips on YouTube and this, that, or the other. It's a brilliant marketing idea that has completely worked when you sell out the stadium. And it's kind of like the Rouge. Yeah, the baseball's there, but it's all the other stuff where the families have fun, the kids have fun, and the adults. I mean, and oh, by the way, the score is 2-2. So I mean, it's what it is, and they've actually done a great idea. And anything you can take from them and bring it back to our community for the Baton Rouge Rouge, I think that'll be a great idea.
The only thing is, what I'm going to watch is the Harlem Globetrotters show, right? Which is they literally put a 2-hour clock up on the scoreboard, so the game lasts 2 hours, and they make their own rules. If a fan catches a foul ball, he's out, and things like that. So those are things you can't do, and they don't do that in June and July when they play in the Coastal League. So I'd really love to go next year to them when they play a Coastal League game to see how they implement real baseball with their show. And basically the biggest thing that they do is that their teams will dress up in crazy uniforms, but they also have like the theatrical introductions for players when they come up to the plate. It's not always your traditional, now batting number 5, Ronnie Rance. It's, some performance and music and and all that. So, those are the little things that are pretty interesting. So looking forward to it, man. Anybody that can make the Savannah Bananas the hottest brand in sports right now, and they are. Trust me. Everyone knows about the Savannah Bananas. You've heard of them. You may not know everything, but they are a growing brand. And the fact that they took a town in Savannah, Georgia that had lost its minor league baseball team, had an empty stadium, and now they're the hottest thing going, and everybody's trying to have a little bananas in their show. That tells you all you need to know. So that's tonight, 6 to 9 on ESPN2. You can watch all that stuff. Tommy, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I want to remind folks about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, the on-site catering, the lunch specials today, fried catfish, top of crawfish etouffee. Also, they're putting together all the home gating and tailgating platters for the football season. And here's the deal, Ronnie. One-day meat sale, Saturday, August 27th. Save the date. We'll tell you more about it as we get close. Saturday, August 27th. Bacon, $5.99 a pound. If Ronnie gets there before you, you will not get any. Whole brisket, Boston butt, pork loin, racks, tenderloins, wine, you name it, whiskey. One-day sale, August 27th. We'll tell you more about it. And they're going to plaster it all over social media, the meat sale at Tremonti's. But in between, get your tailgating platters, your home gating platters. And somebody asked me the other day, said, what's home gating? Well, it's when you have a tailgate party at home for the game, and you just have everybody come over and watch and do all of that. That's called home gating. So Tremonti's can take care of you for all of that. Also, there's a bourbon raffle going on. Go to tremontis.com, click the bourbon raffle tab, tremontis.com, click the bourbon raffle tab, and then all your home gating, tailgating platters, and save the date, August 27th, for that meat sale.
I'll say this. I went last year. I bought all the bacon I could basically fit in my freezer. It didn't make it a year, by the way. I ate it all. Gives you an idea of my cholesterol. But that said, it is an unbelievable. I got to figure out a way, Tommy, between now and August 27th to get some room in my freezer so that I can load up on the bacon deal, because it's well worth it.
It is. We'll tell you more about it as we get closer. And Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning. I'll be on with the phone. One segment. You guys will be out at, where are you at tomorrow? Bruley Walk-Ons?
We'll be tomorrow at the Bruley Walk-Ons, and myself, Hunter McCann, Derry Beckwith, we'll all be there. And so looking forward to it.
And, of course, Sports Shorts Daily. Now we're going to try to get back into our schedule now that I'm a little bit on the other side of the knee surgery. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as of today, is the schedule, approximately 9 o'clock each morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with the good folks from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, as well as Tremonti's and LeBear's and all our sponsors. So like and share this video. That'll help us a lot.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's.